Okay. Hello, everyone. I've been waiting to meet you virtually for quite an hour now, almost an hour now. And I'm really sorry because I will only be able to be with you for 15 minutes owing to other commitments. So I will keep my initial remarks very brief because I would like to also give you the opportunity to ask questions as it had been planned. So first of all, let me thank the organizers of this event, the European Palestinian Network. It's a very important initiative, what you're launching, and I salute you for that. And of course, I thank all those who came to this event. I will be in Denmark soon for the first time in my life, so I look forward to meeting many of you and continuing the discussion. I was asked to comment on, to share some remarks about justice and international law, where Palestine stands. But in fact, my instinct is to reverse this question. We must reverse this question in order to give sense to what you are trying to do, focus on, and achieve. Palestine is the question, and we should ask ourselves, where do justice and international law stand? Because what Palestine has become today is very clear. It's a wound, as writer Arundhati Roy has put it, and is Palestine as a land and as a people. He's being brutalized, really vandalized, at the end of a system that we know it's an apartheid regime. We know that Israel maintains an unlawful occupation in the little that remains of Palestine, namely Gaza, the West Bank, and East Jerusalem. And we know that what Israel is committing is an abhorrent crimes, or rather a series of crimes that for me can only be understood in their entirety, in their totality, as genocide, for one purpose, which is very anachronistic, but this is what it is. The realization of greater Israel is upholding an anachronistic design, the taking of the land, and this is what settler colonialism is. I understand that this term creates some anxiety and some tension among people who feel very close and very attached to Israel. But look, Israel cannot behave above the law, cannot behave as if it was not concerned by the legal system that was conceived and was put in place 80 years ago with the birth of the United Nations system, and even before. So Palestine is to be protected and is not. In fact, is suffering the assault not just of Israel, but of the West and all the others who remain idle, looking what's happening to its inhabitants, to its Palestinian inhabitants. So we need to ask ourselves, in the face of this, where does international law stand, and where does justice stand? Very briefly, international law is very clear. It's crystal clear about Palestine. It's crystal clear that the Palestinians have a right of self-determination, meaning have a right to exist as a people in what remained of their land. And in the Gaza Strip, the West Bank and East Jerusalem, they have an exclusive right to self-determination in the form of statehood, which doesn't mean that the Palestinians have no entitlements to the rest, including to Israel. There they have to be protected, the minority. Nothing of this is happening. Instead, Israel continues to treat the Palestinians as an unwanted encumbrance, presuming them as a security threat and treating them as terrorists before even proving guilty. So there is a presumption of guilt instead of a presumption of innocence in what remains of Palestine and in Israel. And this is wrong. This is unacceptable. It's because of this, because of the underlying illegality of Israel's unrelinquished territorial ambition over what remains of Palestine, that in July last year, the International Court of Justice has reminded everyone of the inalienability and inderogability of the right of self-determination, because of which we cannot reach other conclusions, as the ICJ did, that the occupation is unlawful. It must be dismantled unconditionally and totally, including the settlements. Israel cannot maintain Israel-controlled settlements in the occupied Palestinian territory. And Israel cannot retain any form of control over the resources that pertain to the occupied Palestinian territory and belong to its people. Which doesn't mean the Jewish people cannot live ever in the occupied Palestinian territory. There are many anti-apartheid Jews who live among Palestinians, but not as settlers, not as supremacists, but as equal, renting instead of stealing. And therefore, there are obligations in the face of this. There are obligations to bring to a cessation this unlawful endeavor. What are member states doing in order to achieve this goal? And all the more, what are member states doing at the time Palestinians are being genocided? Because have no doubt, what's happening in Gaza is a genocide. And if we do not see this as a genocide, it means two things: either that we have not understood anything of what genocide is, because genocide is the destruction of a group, is the intention to destroy a group as such. And this can be understood not looking for the genocidal intent with a magnifier, but taking a step back and looking at what Israel is doing. It's full destruction of the Palestinian habitat, of Palestinian services, of Palestinian bodies and Palestinian souls, through acts that the Genocide Convention declares being genocidal act: killing, inflicting severe bodily or mental harm, or creating conditions of life that would lead to the destruction of the group. Before even determining whether this is genocide or not, the very declaration of intent, the very genocidal incitement that has existed against the Palestinians for years should have alerted us that what's happening is a tragedy foretold. And all member states who have not taken steps to oppose it might be held responsible. They should have stopped transferring weapons to Israel. They should have stopped dealing, trading, buying, selling to Israel as long as it maintains an unlawful occupation and it commits genocide. But again, and with this I conclude, this is where the next step is. Where does justice stand? It's emotion. It's emotion. The International Court of Justice is considering, has already recognized that there is a possibility that Israel is committing genocide 1 year ago. And the evidence has continued to increase and to be collected that acts of genocide have been committed of course, with intent to destroy the Palestinians as such, not just in the Gaza Strip. Look at what is happening in the West Bank. And the Israeli leaders are saying that they will do to Gaza what they will do to the West Bank what they've done to Gaza. It's coming, and Palestinians need protection. The International Criminal Court, yes, slowly but steadily has advanced to deliver a modicum of justice to the Palestinian victims of the most atrocious crimes in Gaza. And still, look at what's happening. Western countries are rising, not to ensure justice, but to, of course, not all Western countries. Some Western countries, prominent and influential countries in the international community, are rising to stop the delivery of justice. This is going to affect all of us. This is not just punishing the Palestinians. This is not just throwing the Palestinians under the bus. This is betraying the international multilateral system that has protected us for 8 decades, most of us, particularly in the West. We are opening up to lawlessness at the international level, and we cannot afford this. And this is why I want to leave you with one recommendation. Remember, justice for whomever and for whatever starts at home, wherever we are. It is the time to hold the politicians who have made themselves co-responsible or complicit with the crimes that have been committed in the occupied Palestinian territory accountable. And so the businesses, the charities, the banks, the pension funds, and the individuals who have been buying, selling property or services in the occupied Palestinian territory, who have profited from the pain and the injustice and humiliation inflicted on the Palestinians, who have chosen to live as settlers in the occupied Palestinian territory, or worse, who have chosen to fight in the Israeli occupation army. Again, this is where justice is going. There are many attempts to stop it. And so I want to leave you with a call to be aware that the work of all of us is needed, and not because, not only because of the title of this event is about Together for Humanity. It's together with humanity and for justice. This is something that we owe not just to the Palestinians, but to all of us. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much. Francesca, can you hear me? You can hear me? Francesca, can you hear me?
Yes, now I can hear you. I could only see the crowd, the cheering crowd, so I was saying hi.
How long do we have you for? Because I was going to do a very rapid Q&A, which is going to make me sprint around this room, but I'm happy to do it for you. Tell me what time.
6 minutes.
6 minutes. So we got it. Okay, hands
yes.
up. Who would like to ask a question? Here, coming to you.
Yes.
Would recognizing Palestine as a state give us weapons to protect Palestine?
And Francesca, I'm going to take a few in a go. Next.
Hello, Mr. Francesca Albanese.
I couldn't hear the question. I only heard
the
state.
first question.
Do you want to repeat it, or shall I? The first question was, will it give us additional weapons if we recognize Palestine as a state? Yeah. So that's question one. I'm going to give you two more before you answer. Could maximize your time, please.
Yes, Mrs. Francesca Albanese. We are different collectives from all over Europe here in this conference. Do you hear me? Can you hear me? Yes?
Yes.
So we are from different countries here in the conference, and we would like to have advices from you, what we can do as collectives to pressurize on our governments. What should we do? This is my question. Thank you.
Okay, I'm going to give you two more, and then I'm going to let you answer all of that in the remaining minutes, if that's okay. So this gentleman here, and then to this gentleman here.
Yes, a brief question, Mrs. Albanese, about Poland. Poland wants to invite Netanyahu to come and visit, and has promised him that he won't be arrested. Is that something the Polish...
So Poland has promised to invite Netanyahu and said he won't get arrested. What's the question?
Is that a possibility that the government can do against international law, or is it just plain bullshit?
So can Poland do that and go against international law, or is that indeed, in the words of the gentleman, bullshit? One last question from you, sir, and then we'll let her answer.
I don't have a question. I just want to say to Lady Albanese, as a 70-year-old Palestinian who lived most of all what we've been through, that I love her, I love her, I love her. And she is my hero. She is my hero. And I'm very happy that I am here to see her, although it's not in person. I wish someday I see her in person. To kiss her hand and thank her.
Let's make sure my husband doesn't listen to this conference.
Just the hand.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, sir. And thank you. Francesca, over to you.
Yes, okay. So let me start from the first. Okay, first of all, I hope I understood the questions well. The audio is not great. But again, I will be soon, in a few weeks, I will be in Copenhagen and I will spend a few days in Denmark. So and there will be plenty of events. There are people who have been working relentlessly to organize a great visit with many public events. And I really hope to see many of you and listen to you better. However, the fear that Palestinians might have weapons and use them against Israel I mean, isn't this a question that should apply to all states? All member states have the right to self-defense. Whether attacks, they can defend themselves, but they cannot invoke self-defense to attack other countries and other people. Also, I question the fact that Palestinians are seen as inherently violent, when in fact, I really have no idea how the Palestinians have managed to stay so calm and tolerant and resilient without resorting to violence that was proportionate to the horror they have endured. Because let's be frank, I don't know anyone who has lived in Palestine, who has gone through Palestine and has seen the horror that they've been forced to swallow for decades. I mean, look at, I encourage the lady who asked me this question to read my third report, the one about children, because I thought at a certain point I need to be able to present what Palestinians go through the eyes of children. Thousands and thousands of children have been killed in the last 20 years alone when the statistics started to be collected. And hundreds of thousands have been either injured, maimed, or remained orphans. There is no Palestinian child who doesn't have at least one family member who has been arrested or extrajudicially killed. You know that Israel has demolished 60,000 homes before October 7 to the belonging to the Palestinians, let alone the schools, the playgrounds, and all other essential facilities that are needed to grow. And all these while stealing land belonging to the Palestinians and giving it to settlers, including land needed to farm, to build industries, to grow as a people. So, I mean, the question is, how are we going to control, to make sure that Israel makes no further harm to the Palestinians? This is also a question that we need to ask without assuming that the Palestinians are violent, because this is sounds a bit racist. Seriously, we need to check what we say. And again, not to put the lady on the spotlight, but this is a question that I'm often asked. There is an assumption the Palestinians are somewhat going to take revenge. No, they will not, but they need to be allowed to live in peace and freedom as anyone deserves. The second question is, are states allowed to violate international law with impunity? Well, they are not under international law. But you know, international law is as strong as the will of member states to enforce it. And this is not different from domestic law. I mean, there are countries who have fantastic laws and they simply don't enforce them because of moral corruption, because of simple corruption. And this is the reality. And these kind of societies are more insecure and more prone to violence. So I'm shocked that that there is this level of lawlessness at the international level, in the international arena. And I'm not surprised, to be honest, I'm not surprised by Israel. I encourage all of you to read this book, Palestine Laboratory, written by an Australian scholar who grew in a traditional Jewish community in Melbourne, which is the city which hosts the highest number of Holocaust survivors in the world, outside Europe. And he wrote this book that proves how not only Israel has been selling, Israel is a military state which has been selling weapons and surveillance techniques and mass containment strategies to all over the world since its very inception, since the early 50s, to countries who have committed heinous crimes against its citizens and been involved in horrible conflict. Guatemala, Rwanda, Myanmar, Azerbaijan, Serbia, and you name it. So I encourage you to read this book, but also it proves that the Palestinians have been the guinea pig on whom, and guinea pigs, excuse me for this language, but this is within the Palestine Laboratory, the guinea pigs on whom these techniques and strategies and weapons have been used and tested. So we need to face this reality. So today, I'm not surprised that Israel is acting the way it's acting. It's shocking, but it's not surprising. This is what settler colonialism, if left unchecked, leads to. And there are hundreds of histories and millions of people who have learned this on their very skin. But there are 500 years of history who we should reconnect to, because it's our European history, a history of colonization. Maybe you in Denmark are a bit safer in this respect, but no, Greenland, sorry. And but also, so the rest of Europe, the rest of the West, and the rest, as simple as that. Is it possible that the entire world is not capable to stand against this lawlessness, which is today personified at the international level by this strong coalition between Israel and the US? Stopping this will grant not only the betterment of life for the Palestinians and ultimately for the Israelis, because it's dehumanizing to be part of such a society that brutalizes the other, like Israel, the state of Israel does. But it will be for the betterment of all of us, because we need to live in demilitarized societies, as simple as that. And the last question, I really didn't understand if it was a question. I thank the gentleman who spoke so gently toward me. And again, as I said, I look forward to seeing you all when I come to Denmark.
Thank you so much, Francesca. I just want to clarify, if you can hear me correctly, the first question was slightly misunderstood, but I think it was really helpful to hear your response anyway. On this question, the lady was asking whether it is a helpful tool to have Palestine recognized as a state, in terms of the pushback, as it were, as in an arm in the arsenal. But it's okay. Your response was, of course, very helpful to wider questions I'm sure many people receive. So thank you.
I'm really sorry to the lady who asked the question. Let me answer.
Yeah, and just also, sorry.
And thank you. It's a very important question.
Thank
you.
It's
not about helpful or unhelpful, but it's international law. There is international consensus about the fact that at least in that 22% of land, the Palestinians should have exclusive right to self-determination in the form of statehood. If it doesn't happen, there is no alternative. Palestinians need to have civil, political, cultural, social, and economic rights, and first and foremost, the right to self-determination, meaning the right to exist as a people in the land that is connected to who they are as a people. I hope this is helpful.
And just before we let you go, that final question was around, you have a room full of people from various European organizations here before you today. What can they all do? That's the question. Yes. What can everyone in this room do to support the Palestinian struggle?
Yes, absolutely. Sorry, I missed this question. Sorry, what is needed is, first of all, I understand many people are enraged, are infuriated. Many cannot stand the images of slaughtered children, mothers and fathers. Trust me, this is the feeling that I've been having for years now, particularly the last 15 months. But we do not have the luxury of turning the eyes away. Especially those of you who are in this room are clearly there for a purpose, because you want to know and act together. So what does togetherness means? First of all, again, as I said, I do believe that action is needed at the domestic level. The strategy should be made of 3 steps: 1 short term, 1 medium term, 1 long term. End of the genocide now. Let them call it ceasefire. That's fine, but it is to be a permanent one. And this to happen now. End of the genocide. Release of the hostages. Of course, the hundreds Israeli hostages and the 1,000 Palestinian hostages. This is immediate. The second goal is to achieve the end of the occupation. International Court of Justice has declared this has to happen, and the General Assembly has given a deadline for it to happen. 17 September 2025, this year. So ask your government what is doing to ensure that Israel relinquishes its occupation. And then, long-term goal, but this is to be the goal for all of us, help dismantle apartheid wherever it is, starting in Palestine. And this is the only way for Palestinians and Israelis to live in that land free as individuals and as people. And then the rest will follow. But how to do that? And I've issued 14 recommendations with other special rapporteurs. If you look for ICJ advisory opinion, 14 recommendations, you will have the list. But the first thing is that each member state needs to disclose all the ties they have with Israel: diplomatic, economic, financial, strategic, military, everything. And this is to happen both for the public sphere and the private sphere. And trust me, because most member states, including the most friendly one, there is no one that doesn't have ties, that doesn't buy military services from Israel directly or indirectly. So I'm telling you, because the member states will not do that, civil society has a huge responsibility. Reorient your resources toward this, exposing all the ties that link your state to apartheid Israel. Work with the Israelis who are against genocide, occupation, and the apartheid. This is not a campaign against individual Israelis. This is a campaign against apartheid policies and genocide policies enforced by the state of Israel. And then look at who comes into your territory. The Hind Rajab Foundation is doing an incredible job, but I am among those who have been preaching that this is an essential action for years now. There is a need to ensure that there is justice, that there is accountability for anyone who has been complicit now with the genocide, but with the illegality of the occupation. And again, this is charities, yes, charities as well, pension funds, check where your money goes. I've done it myself, and it's shocking. It's impossible almost to invest in pension funds without having ties to the occupation. So, but you will need to raise awareness about that. And work also to look at universities. And all universities, most universities continue to have ties with Israeli research, the research system, which, as Israeli scholar Maya Wind has exposed, is incredibly intertwined to the illegality of Israel's endeavor. And then, last but not least, defend the defender. Because there are so many people, Palestinian, other nationalities, Jewish people, who have been punished this year, including in European countries that have that define themselves as the protectors of human rights, freedom of speech, freedom of assembly and association. They've been punished for standing in solidarity with Palestine. Defend them and stand in strong solidarity with them, helping them pay the judicial, the fees for courts, etc. Because when you take the promoters of these actions, this silencing to courts, they lose. And on this note, I really need to leave you. Thank you so much for having me.
Francesca, we thank you enormously for your time. Thank you for being with us.